The hunters become the hunted. The void of space stretched endlessly around the Sol system. But today, it was far from empty. 847 massive ships hung in the darkness like sleeping giants, their hulls gleaming with the cold light of distant stars. Each vessel stretched over 2 kilometers in length, bristling with weapons that had laid waste to dozens of worlds across the galaxy. Admiral Zexstar stood on the command deck of his flagship, the Dominion's Edge, gazing at the small blue world that hung before them like a fragile ornament. His 4 arms were crossed behind his back in the traditional pose of Vorthan superiority, while his scaled face bore the expression of someone observing an insect about to be crushed. The planet Earth looked so peaceful from this distance, its white clouds swirling over blue oceans and brown continents. Admiral, his tactical officer, Sub-Commander Velanoth, approached with a data tablet clutched in his clawed hands. Our reconnaissance drones have completed their survey of the human defensive capabilities. Zexstar turned his massive head, his yellow eyes narrowing with interest. And what mighty warriors await us, Velanoth? The sub-commander's mandibles clicked in what passed for laughter among his species. Sir, the humans possess approximately 12,000 primitive aircraft, most of which cannot even reach their planet's upper atmosphere. Their space presence consists of a handful of research stations and perhaps 24 vessels that appear to be simple cargo haulers. Their most advanced weapons are crude fusion devices that would barely scratch our hull plating. Fusion devices? Zexstar's voice rumbled with amusement. The same technology we abandoned 3,000 years ago. How delightfully primitive. Through the vast viewing port, Earth continued its slow rotation, completely unaware of the death that waited just beyond the orbit of its outermost planet. The Vorthan Empire had conquered 47 worlds in the past millennium, each one adding to their growing dominion across the galaxy. Some civilizations had fought bravely, others had surrendered without resistance, but none had posed any real challenge to the Empire's superior technology and tactics. Far below on Earth's surface, Commander Sarah Chen stood in the war room, buried deep beneath the Colorado mountains. The facility had been constructed in absolute secrecy over the past 5 years, ever since Earth's deep space monitoring stations had detected the first signs of an approaching alien presence. Now, as she stared at the holographic display showing the enemy fleet positioned throughout their solar system, she felt the weight of humanity's survival resting on her shoulders. "Ma'am, we're receiving signals from all defense coordinators," reported Lieutenant Commander James Park, his fingers dancing across his console. "London, Tokyo, Moscow, Beijing, and New Delhi all confirm their sectors are ready." Sarah nodded grimly. The past 3 years had been a race against time that the public knew nothing about. When Earth's scientists had finally cracked the mystery of faster-than-light travel, they had also discovered something terrifying. They were not alone in the universe, and something very large was heading their way. Dr. Marcus Rivera emerged. From the technical section, his usually immaculate hair disheveled from hours of frantic work. As Earth's leading expert on adaptive technology, he had been tasked with the impossible, turning a peaceful civilization into a defensive powerhouse using nothing but civilian infrastructure. "Sarah, the conversion is complete," he announced, his voice hoarse with exhaustion. "Every communication satellite, weather monitoring station, and GPS array in orbit has been modified. We've essentially turned Earth's entire orbital infrastructure into a distributed weapons platform. And they have no idea what they're looking at," Sarah replied, a thin smile crossing her lips. "To their senses, we still look like a primitive species that barely knows how to leave our own atmosphere." The deception had been critical to their plan. When the alien scouts had arrived 2 months ago, Earth had carefully maintained the appearance of a backward civilization. Military installations were hidden or disguised. Advanced spacecraft were kept grounded, and all electromagnetic emissions were carefully controlled to suggest a species that had just discovered radio technology. Captain Alina Kozlov sat in the cockpit of her fighter, the Terran Fury, in a hangar carved deep inside an asteroid that officially didn't exist. Around her, 49 other pilots performed final systems checks on their experimental craft. The fighters had been built using technology reverse-engineered from alien debris found at the edge of the solar system, combined with human ingenuity and a healthy disregard for safety regulations. All pilots, this is Kozlov, she spoke into her communication system. Remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight today. We're trying to survive and make them pay for every inch of space they try to take. The response was immediate and determined. These pilots were volunteers, every one of them knowing that they might not survive the day. But they also knew that someone had to stand between the aliens and Earth, and they had stepped forward without hesitation. High above Earth's atmosphere, the first phase of the defense was already in motion. What appeared to be simple weather. Satellites began to reorient themselves, their solar panels folding away to reveal sophisticated sensor arrays and targeting systems. Communication satellites that had been providing phone service just hours before now hummed with deadly energy. As their broadcasting arrays were converted into focused beam weapons, Admiral Zextar reviewed the final battle plans from his command throne. The strategy was simple and had worked on every previous conquest. Divide the fleet into hunting groups, destroy any resistance from orbit, then land ground forces to secure the planet's resources and population. The humans would surrender within hours once they realized the hopelessness of their situation. Begin the approach, he commanded. All battle groups proceed to designated positions. Target their primitive satellites first, then their ground-based installations. I want this world secured before the next cycle. The Vorthan fleet began to move with the practiced precision of a military machine that had never known defeat. Ships spread out across the solar system, taking positions that would allow them to strike Earth from every angle simultaneously. It was a formation that had crushed resistance on 47 worlds, but Earth was not like those other worlds. Dr. Rivera monitored the approaching fleet from his command center, his fingers poised over the activation controls. Sarah, they're moving into the kill zone. All orbital platforms report ready status. Remember, Sarah spoke into her communicator, addressing every defense station on Earth and in orbit. We only get one chance at surprise. Make it count. The aliens had no way of knowing that every primitive satellite they detected was actually a precisely placed weapon. Earth's orbital infrastructure had been designed from the beginning to serve dual purposes. The same satellites that predicted weather patterns could track incoming spacecraft with devastating accuracy. The same communication arrays that carried television signals could focus energy beams capable of cutting through alien hull plating. Captain Kozlov watched her tactical display as the enemy fleet approached. All fighters, prepare for launch. Remember, hit fast, hit hard, and keep moving. Don't let them lock onto you. The experimental human fighters were small and fast, built using lessons learned from centuries of atmospheric combat, while the aliens had designed their ships for overwhelming firepower and thick armor. Humans had focused on speed and maneuverability. It was about to prove the difference between survival and extinction. Admiral Zextar stood on his bridge, confident in his superiority. In less than an hour, this primitive world would join the Empire, and he would add another victory to his already impressive record. The humans were about to learn what happened when a species tried to stand against the might of the Vorthan Empire. He had no way of knowing that the humans were about to teach him an entirely different lesson, that the most dangerous enemy is the one you underestimate. The first shots of Earth's desperate defense were only moments away, and the galaxy was about to discover that humanity had not spent centuries fighting each other without learning a few things about warfare. The hunters were about to become the hunted, and 847 ships were about to face the fury of a species with nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. The battle for Earth was about to begin, and the universe would never be the same. Asterisk. When Earth strikes back, the silence of space was shattered as Earth's orbital defense grid came alive with deadly purpose. What had appeared to be simple civilian satellites moments before now revealed their true nature as sophisticated weapons. Platforms, focused energy beams, lanced out from hundreds of points around the planet, striking the closest Vorthan ships with devastating accuracy. Admiral Zexstar watched in stunned disbelief as 3 of his destroyers simply vanished in brilliant explosions. "What is happening?" he roared, his forearms gesturing wildly at the tactical display. Those were supposed to be primitive communication devices. Sub-Commander Velenov's claws clicked frantically across his control panel as damage reports flooded in. "Sir, we're detecting massive energy signatures from over 400 orbital platforms. They're not primitive at all. They're using advanced focused beam technology." The first wave of human fighters burst from hidden launch bays, carved into asteroids and disguised as space debris. Captain Alina Kozlov led her squadron in a diving attack on a Vorthan cruiser, her ship's experimental engines allowing maneuvers that defied the aliens' understanding of physics. The human fighters moved like angry hornets, striking fast and disappearing before the massive alien weapons could track them. "Target their sensor arrays first," Kozlov commanded over the comm system. "Blind them, then go for their weapon hardpoints." Her pilots responded with the precision of warriors who had trained for this moment their entire lives. The human fighters swarmed around the alien ships like schools of fish around whales, their smaller size and superior agility allowing them to slip through defensive fire that would have obliterated larger vessels. Dr. Rivera coordinated the technological aspects of the defense from his underground command center, watching as years of preparation paid off in spectacular fashion. "Sarah, the plasma conduit modifications are working perfectly. We're channeling power from every electrical grid on the planet directly to the orbital weapons." Commander Chen smiled grimly as she watched the tactical display. The aliens had expected to fight a primitive species with crude weapons. Instead, they were facing the concentrated technological might of an entire planet that had been secretly preparing for this moment. Initiate Phase 2. Activate the asteroid belt platforms. Throughout the asteroid belt between Mars and Jupiter, mining equipment that had been working peacefully for years suddenly revealed hidden weapons systems. Industrial lasers designed to cut through rock were refocused and amplified, creating beams of energy that could slice through alien hull plating like a hot knife through butter. Or processing stations became missile launchers, hurling projectiles accelerated by magnetic coils at velocities that turned simple metal into devastating kinetic weapons. Admiral Zexstar's flagship shuddered as a coordinated strike from 12 orbital platforms struck its shields simultaneously. For the first time in his career, he felt something he had never experienced before: fear. "All ships, implement Defensive Formation Protocol 7. focus fire on those orbital weapons. But the human weapons were not stationary targets like those. The Vorthan Empire was used to fighting. Dr. Rivera had designed the defense grid with mobility in mind. Satellites could reposition themselves rapidly, disappearing behind the planet or using the moon as cover before emerging from unexpected angles to strike again. Captain Kozlov's fighter squadron had learned tactics from studying Earth's own aerial combat history. They used the planets and moons as cover, emerged from the shadow of asteroids to launch surprise attacks, and employed formation flying techniques that confused the alien targeting systems. When a Vorthan battleship tried to swat them with its massive guns, they split apart like a flock of birds, regrouped behind the ship, and struck its engines with surgical precision. "This is impossible," Velenoth reported, his voice shaking. "Sir, we've lost over 200 ships in the first hour. The humans are using tactics we've never encountered before." What the aliens didn't understand was that humanity had spent thousands of years perfecting the art of warfare against opponents who seemed superior. Every human military academy had studied the battles where small, determined forces had overcome overwhelming odds through superior tactics, better use of terrain, and sheer bloody-minded determination not to surrender. The turning point came when Dr. Rivera activated his most ambitious project, the planetary defense laser. Built in secret over the past 3 years, it used the Earth's entire electrical grid as a power source, channeling energy through a network of superconducting cables to a massive focusing array hidden beneath the Antarctic ice sheet. Targeting the enemy flagship, Rivera announced, his hands steady despite the magnitude of what he was about to do. "All power grids confirm maximum output." The beam that lanced out from Earth's surface was visible from orbit, a pillar of pure energy that struck the Dominion's edge with the power of a small star. Zextar's mighty flagship, which had led the conquest of 47 worlds, simply ceased to exist in a flash of light that could be seen from Mars. The psychological effect on the remaining Vorthan fleet was immediate and devastating. These were soldiers who had never known defeat, warriors who believed in their absolute superiority, watching their flagship and their admiral vanish in an instant broke something fundamental in their understanding of the universe. Commander Chen seized the moment. "All units, press the attack. Don't give them time to regroup." Human forces struck from every direction simultaneously. Orbital platforms that had been silent suddenly came alive with weapons fire. Fighter squadrons emerged from hidden bases throughout the solar system. Even civilian vessels joined the fight. Cargo haulers and research ships modified with improvised weapons systems. The planet Mars became a battlefield as its orbital stations revealed hidden missile launchers. Jupiter's moons erupted with defensive installations that had been disguised as research facilities. The entire solar system had been turned into one massive fortress, and every human installation had been designed with dual civilian and military purposes. Sub-Commander Velenoth, now in command of what remained of the fleet, stared at his tactical display in horror. Over 600 ships destroyed or disabled, and the humans showed no signs of slowing down. "All remaining ships, retreat to the outer system. We need to regroup and call for reinforcements." But Captain Kozlov and her pilots had other plans. The human fighters pursued the retreating aliens, striking their engines and life support systems with the precision of surgeons. They had learned that crippled ships could be captured and studied, potentially providing Earth with the technology needed to defend against future attacks. Dr. Rivera monitored the retreat from his command center. His screens, showing the scattered remains of what had been the Vorthan Empire's mightiest fleet. Sarah, they're running. Only 47 ships are still capable of faster-than-light travel. The final phase of the battle took place at the edge of the solar system, where the surviving Vorthan ships desperately tried to escape. But human forces had prepared for this too. Long-range platforms hidden among the outer planets struck the fleeing vessels with precisely calculated shots, disabling their faster-than-light drives and stranding them in normal space. When the shooting finally stopped, the silence of space returned to the Sol system. But it was a different kind of silence now, the quiet of victory rather than the calm before a storm. Of the 847 ships that had arrived to conquer Earth, only 12 managed to escape, limping back to Vorthan space with news that would shake their empire to its foundations. Commander Chen stood in her command center, surrounded by reports of victory. From every defense station on Earth and throughout the solar system, the cost had been significant. Dozens of orbital platforms destroyed, hundreds of fighters lost, and thousands of brave humans who had given their lives for their species' survival. But they had won something far more valuable. They had proven that Earth would not go quietly into the night. Captain Kozlov landed, her damaged fighter, in the same asteroid base where the battle had begun. Her canopy scarred by enemy fire and her engines running on backup power. As she climbed out of her cockpit, she looked up at the stars and smiled. Somewhere out there, alien civilizations would soon learn that there was a new player in the galaxy, one that refused to be conquered or intimidated. Dr. Rivera began the process of analyzing the captured alien technology, knowing that Earth's real work was just beginning. The Vorthan Empire would not forget this defeat, and other alien species would eventually test humanity's defenses. But they had time now, time to prepare, time to grow stronger, and time to ensure that Earth would never again face extinction alone. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson that day. Never underestimate a species that has spent its entire history fighting against impossible odds and winning through pure determination, creativity, and an absolute refusal to surrender. 847 ships had come to conquer Earth. Only 12 returned home, carrying with them the knowledge that humanity was not prey to be hunted, but predators in their own right, ready to defend their home with everything they had. The humans had spoken in the only language the universe truly understood, the language of strength, courage, and the unbreakable will to survive. Asterisk.